cup, Lord, I lifted up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting in my soul. Bread from heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up, and make me whole. Good morning, good morning. It's Black Friday. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, Sheila Mar Stewart. Good morning, Swanky Life. I see you guys over here talking to me on YouTube too. It's Black Friday, the holiest of holidays. Well, not even holidays, holiest of observations. For many, many of us who are Christian, this is where Christ was crucified to die for our sins. And Lord Jesus, we have been sinning. That we just been sinning onto sinning onto sinning. So it's a lot going on out here. And as you can tell, it's just been. Good morning, Bobby. Good morning. Oh, look, my beautiful surprises. Did I say? What did I say? Good Friday. Did I say Good Friday? What did I say? Lord Jesus, it's Good Friday. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. Good morning, Bobby. Good morning, Alexandra. Good morning, Beatrice. Did I say I said Black Friday, didn't I? Lord have mercy. It's Good Friday, where Jesus was crucified and died for our sins. I'm telling you, this is what happens when mother hangs out at night. I went to see the Mary J. Blige concert last night, thanks to some great friends. I was looking for a last minute ticket. They sent me a thing. I Apple paid them, and off I went. And I had the best time. Today, though, this morning, particularly for those of us in different countries, in different countries, in different places, we observe Good Friday a different way. My husband said I said Black Friday. This is how you know I'm tired, right? Good Friday a different way. So in the Jamaican tradition, we do not turn on a stove until after 1:30. So bun and cheese is what we eat. Black Jesus on a Good Friday. Black Jesus on a Good Friday. So bun and cheese is what we eat. And then what we normally do the day before is we fry fish or make escovitch or whatever it is so that we can eat that because it's that this holiest of observances, and so we don't turn on the stove, we don't play music, we don't do any of those things. We literally solemnly sit still and think about how Christ died for our sins, and how blessed we are as a people. I don't know what the tradition here is in the United States. I just know that people observe Good Friday, Palm Sunday, and Easter Sunday, where most of you don't usually show up for church. Yes, yes, yes. That's when you all will be in there. The Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter people, you'll all be in there. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. And I'm hoping that this year, you won't just come for Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, that you will find your churches and fill those pews because we need God at this point. Like we've always needed God, but no more than ever. Good morning, Monica. Good morning, Swanky Life. Good morning. So I am going to do a morning motivation, something I haven't done in a while. But after an experience that I had yesterday, I just want to remind you all that as much as we'd like to believe everybody comes from a good place, they don't always do. So, this is what I wrote some years ago. When I say that I miss nothing, believe it. I'm quite an observer of people, and as such, I never give an opinion lightly when asked my thoughts about individuals, places, or things. People will always show us who they are over time, and our one job is to believe them and move accordingly. I met a man years ago in my work that immediately struck me as interesting. I sat back and observed him for half of a day and then wrote a report to his immediate supervisor, who called me to discuss. I asked if I could be openly frank, and when given permission, I said I thought this person was self serving to the place where he could be dangerous to the livelihood of others. It was noted, and life went on. Not a year later, this same person planned what amounted to an entire coup to get rid of his supervisor so he could get a coveted job he wanted and was never qualified for. I watched it all unfold dispassionately because I knew what I saw that fateful day. Every time we run into each other since, he smiles nervously and is quite uncomfortable in my presence. Know why? He saw that I saw into his soul. All the degrees and qualifications on paper cannot erase who you are at the core. We tend to ignore what really matters for the shiny apple that we are presented with until the lessons smack us in the face. This happened in a school district. There's a lot that y'all don't know about me, but let's just play along. Happened in a school district. Superintendent said to me, "I need you to, I was doing some work for them, and the superintendent says, can you do me a favor and go spend a day in this particular school, blah 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 blah." And I said yes. Within 2 minutes, I walked in. The person that was at the school that I wanted to, as a principal, had all these degrees and stuff on the thing, but there was nothing in his office that would say that he was really there for children, that he was there to settle in and be there for his teachers, etc., etc. And as he kept on talking, I heard his ambitions coming out. This was just a gap stop for him. He didn't really care about what was going on in the school. He didn't really care about the teachers, didn't care about the students or the families. It was, I'm here, I moved from here to here, and I moved from there to there, and my ultimate goal is to get to this place. So when after hours of being in the building, talking to the educators, meeting with the staff, there were a couple of parents there to meet me, and I had all the dialogue. I got out to my car after, at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I called the superintendent and I say, "You have a dangerous person on your hands." And he looked at me and he said, "Tell me why." Well, I called him. He said, "Tell me why." I said, "I need you to come and meet with me." And so he got out of his office. We sat and had lunch, and I began explaining to him what I saw and what I thought were the ultimate goals of this person. He said, "All right, I'll pay attention, thank you, blah, 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 blah." It wasn't quite a year later. It was 10 months later. I was in Texas with my husband because we were going to go tour the football stadium. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I got a call from that superintendent who said, "You will not believe it." And I'm going, Jesus be all defenses. He said, "There's a whole coup happening. They created these stories that I did X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z because they didn't want me there. And they literally, it was all over the news, took this man down for things he did not say or do." And when I turned around, the person who was in that office talking about, "I've got this goal and that goal," he was the one that started it. They put him out front so he could say, this, because he's a black man. Put him out front so he could do all the things, say all the things. They got rid of the superintendent, and he got the coveted job that he wanted, that he absolutely was not qualified for. As a direct result, now he's sitting in his office hiding out, trying to find a space where he can go be superintendent somewhere else because he's not, first of all, they don't respect him because they were able to use and co-opt him to get him to do what they wanted to do, which was get rid of the superintendent. Once they did that and put him in the space that he coveted, he got up there and didn't know the work, didn't know what to do, could just talk a whole bunch of yin yang and and we shucking and jiving. And so every time he applies for a position to move into another school district to be superintendent, he is blocked. God don't like ugly. He does not. He does not. And the karma that you put out will revisit you in times and places that you can't even begin to imagine. So I've always said this to you. If you hunker down, you don't have to promote yourself. Do your work. Just do your work. If you do your work and do it with fidelity, people will see it. If you're spending all your time trying to make people see while not doing your work that how wonderful you are and you're this beautiful shiny apple and you've gotten this degree and that degree and all the degrees, that's not going to bode well for you over time. And so I read that story again because I'm watching it happen in real time again, again. And so when we choose not to be kind, when we choose to spit and sputter and give a bunch of bravado, and when you can't answer the questions that people are asking of you, what ends up happening is you end up in the spotlight. So now I'm watching middle states have been called. The newspapers are asking all kinds of questions. Lots of these things are going on. Choose to do your work with fidelity and never, ever, ever try to co opt somebody to create a space for yourself to make yourself look good. Because if you're not qualified, you're just not qualified. And if you're unkind and people can't work with you, that comes up too. Because this incident that's happening right now, the person who is dead smack in the middle of it, the feedback is, oh my God, I can't believe that person is such a bully. That person has always done this, and this. So how you show up to folks when the rubber meets the road, that's what you're gonna get. That's exactly what you're gonna get. So on this here Good Friday, sit down, ask forgiveness for the things that you may have done that are not right. And if you're out here tearing people up and making people feel uncomfortable, remember when it's your turn, and it always comes back. It always comes back. When it's your turn, those same people will not show up for you. Not only will they not show up for you, they'll start to tell the stories about the things that you did to harm them or others in their presence. See how that works? Right? So we just got to be better people. Just have to be better people. Um Alexandra says for Good Friday, growing up, we don't do anything between 12 noon and 3 p.m. Catholic household. I'll be live streaming Good Friday service. Yeah, I gotta work today, unfortunately. So I'll find a service. Maybe I don't know if Enon has one this year, but I'll figure it out, right? But so there we are. Here we are. Figure out your life. Let me do a little bit of news before Mr. Jeremiah from the Philadelphia Housing Authority joins me today. I have some questions for him, so I'm going to make sure that we get through to that. Good morning, Shaquilla. Good morning, everyone. Happy Good Friday to all of you. Let me check out the news. Uh, and of course, the news, which is why for months I didn't read any news. For months I was just trying to give a space. Good morning, Debbie Womack. For months I was just giving a space to breathe and to cry and to relax ourselves. Now I've got to get back into the depth of it. At least two people are dead. A 20-year-old suspect is stepson of local sheriff's deputy. The stepson of a local sheriff's deputy allegedly opened fire near the student union at Florida State University in Tallahassee on Thursday, killing two people and injuring six others, authorities said. The suspect, 20-year-old Phoenix Ickner, a current FSU student, was shot by responders and has been hospitalized, people said. He was taken into custody with non-life threatening injuries, multiple law enforcement officials told ABC News. Sir, I need you to join me on the other platform. Click the link for the other thing in your email to join me, so we can have a different conversation over here. So I can send the stuff to your people, Mr. Jeremiah. So look in your email, look for the link, and join me over here in YouTube. Okay? Thank you so much. 6abc.com. Jesus. Five students were injured in a shooting Tuesday afternoon at Hutchins High School in southeast Dallas when a 17-year-old allegedly snuck into the school and fired indiscriminately, according to a state affidavit for the suspect's arrest warrant. The injured, aged 15 to 18, were taken to a hospital for treatment with their injuries ranging from non-life threatening to serious. Dallas Fire Rescue spokesman Jason Evans told CNN affiliate WFAA. So that was Florida and that was Texas, right? Uh, Luigi Mangione indicted on federal charges in United Healthcare CEO's killing. The 26-year-old suspect in the New York City shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has been indicted on federal charges. Luigi Mangione was indicted Thursday by a federal grand jury on one count of murder with a firearm, another firearms offense, and two counts of stalking, if convicted as charged. He would be eligible for the death penalty. Mangione traveled across state lines via an interstate bus line for the purpose of stalking and killing Brian Thompson. The indictment reads, last week Attorney General Pam Bondi had instructed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Mangione, who was already facing state murder charges in the case. Mangione's attorney, who has filed motions asking for the death penalty option to be removed, declined comment on the indictment when reached by CBS News. Good morning. Target CEO Brian Cornell is set to meet with the Reverend Al Sharpton and boycotts against the retailer amid boycotts against the retailer and a decrease in foot traffic spurred by its DEI rollback. According to CNBC, Target called the meeting with Sharpton as some civil rights groups are urging consumers not to stop at Target following its decision to remove its DEI policies. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And initiatives. Sharpton hasn't called for a Target specific boycott, but has supported. Let me see what's going on here. It's in your email. Okay, let me get this to him. Let me get this to him. Let me get this to him. I don't know if they didn't send your email to you, but hold on, my brother. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. We're going to get this in here. No worries. Mm-mm-mm. Let me get this. I'm trying to get this thing out. Just give me a second, please. I find it very interesting that Mangione, a handsome white man who normally would be told that, he was, not feeling well, et cetera, would be given the death penalty. These folks are not playing out here. You hear what I'm telling you? So let's just get it together. Let's just get it together. All right, let me make sure. Uh, uh, hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm just trying to mix. Jesus, it's always something. Okay. All right. So he is facing now the death penalty at 26 years old. I remember being in a restaurant with Denise, and these two men were talking, and they were like, "He comes from such a good family. It must have been that he had mental health issues. Oh my God, what his parents must be thinking, you know." So it's different for everybody, right? Nearly 90% of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau cuts as Trump's government downsizing continues. President Donald Trump is drastically shrinking the workforce and mission of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, eviscerating an agency created after the Great Recession with the goal of protecting Americans from fraud, abuse, and deceptive practices. The plan, which has been challenged by an employee union, is the latest step in an extraordinary reshaping of the federal government. Conservatives, good morning, Jasenia. Conservatives and businesses have often chafed at the agency's oversight and investigations, and Elon Musk made it a top target of his Department of Governmental Efficiency. This was written by Associated Press. This is a lot. All right, let him in. Here we go. Here we go. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I was trying to log on to this, but I didn't have a link.
Was it not sent to you in the email?
There is something in the email, but it takes me to a page that I have to download stuff on and
Oh my. Okay, we'll make sure. Just hold on to that for me.
Mhm.
That way you'll know you'll have it every couple of weeks. Okay, I've got questions for you too because people are asking me to ask you questions. Let me. Calvin Jeremiah is the president and CEO of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, PHA. He oversees the day to day operations of the fourth largest housing authority in the country. His work has emphasized education, improvement, and crime reduction efforts. I must let you know that this episode is proudly sponsored by PHA. You will hear Mr. Jeremiah and I talking every other Friday. I don't know if you're going to keep this up with me, Mr. Jeremiah, but we've a lot to talk about, right? And
I mean,
so,
at 6 o'clock in the morning, Andrea, I don't know what I'm gonna do with
are you
you.
going to say this to me every
Yes, yes, I will.
other Friday? So, listen, there's a couple of things happening, and I want to bear with me for a little bit because I want to read something that you said. In an era, so this was a clipping. With affordable housing already scarce, here's my plan to preserve Philly's aging public housing stock. You are pictured here for the Philadelphia Inquirer. You said something here that struck me, and it's going to allow me to ask you a few questions. In an era when the stock of public housing is aging rapidly and renovation funds are slow to come from Washington, Philadelphia is heading for a devastating public housing crisis. A fundamental shift is needed in how we approach public housing that will benefit future generations. Many residents live in outdated apartments that have been patched up repeatedly. As the leader of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, I have sounded the alarm that nearly two-thirds of our portfolio is more than 70 years old and in need of substantial capital investments. Our increasing backlog of capital and maintenance needs is estimated at $2 billion. Sir,
That's correct, Andrea.
so let's have a conversation about this because you pride yourself in making sure that the residents are in, you know, feasible housing, make sure that they're comfortable, make sure that the housing market, the housing stock, the places that they're living in is in good condition. One of the things that I think a lot of people were not aware of was that there was a backlog and that the monies were slow to come in so that you could do this. This is why these conversations are so important. Let me tell you why. Woman reached out to me and she was like, the housing is not getting fixed, and then I saw your article. And then I saw your article. So explain to people, sir, good morning, what is happening? Why are some of the houses not fixed at, at the rate that people would have expected to be? And thank you for your transparency in that article.
No, my pleasure. We've been talking a lot about safe, sanitary, decent, safe, sanitary housing for quite a bit now. And I think sometimes folks don't fully understand how it is that PHA operates and where our monies come from. 93% of the PHA's budget comes from subsidies that we get from the federal government. There's about 6% that comes from tenant rents, and the balance is grants and grants that we receive, competitive grants that we receive from either the state or the feds. Um, there are essentially three funding streams. And so think about it in terms of having three separate accounts.
Mm-hmm.
One for your capital needs. So these are the funds that we get to address the capital and maintenance needs.
Okay.
We've received approximately every year about $56 million
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we receive the largest affordable housing program that we have is actually not conventional housing, it's actually the housing choice voucher program. So that makes up almost 60% of our funding. And then the next is the public housing, low income public housing um, operating subsidies that we receive, and those fund the all of the developments that you see that we're building,
Mm-hmm.
that we operating, the conventional public housing, the West Parks, the Fair Hills, the Johnson Homes that you see across our city.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we There has been a very long history of underfunding of the capital fund program. So for our need is about $2 billion, but on that we receive approximately 56 million.
Okay.
Nothing
Nothing
close
clear. Yes.
to address in a meaningful way the needs that we have, and we are not alone in this predicament. I think nationally, a HUD own study recognized the need for increased capital investments in affordable housing, in public housing, and they estimate that there is nationally a $70 billion need. Now, the previous administration had sought under one of their plans to help breach that, to fund affordable housing that would allow us to address the ongoing deferred capital needs.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at our Sutton housing, say a Johnson home that was built in the 1940s, the one of the oldest ones that we have that hasn't been upgraded, that was built in an era when we didn't have sustainability feature, energy efficiencies, and the like. That requires significant capital to address the ongoing needs. So what we've been doing is essentially patching, painting, until we have the funds needed to really make a huge dent. And oftentimes it requires widespread redevelopment of a
Mhm.
particular site. And you see that we've done that, for example, in Blumberg. We're doing it in West Park, we're doing it in Fairhill, and we've done
Mhm.
it elsewhere in the city. But it is what has caused the reduction in in the number of affordable housing across the country, and particularly in Philadelphia. We're losing it due to deteriorating conditions that
Mhm.
makes the units inhabitable, and so that those are the conditions
Mhm.
that we're operating within. There just isn't sufficient funds needed to address the backlog of capital needs, so that
Mhm.
we can upgrade our inventory, making it more habitable for contemporary living.
I'm so grateful for this conversation because I'm telling that's what the woman was talking about, the conditions of the housing. And I said, well, let me figure out how to. I'm grateful that you actually brought it to fore without my even having to say anything. So you acknowledge and understand that this is going on. And when you have to do the get the housing up to snuff, you have to move people out
That's
so that you
correct.
can do redo the places. Where are they going?
So we our inventory is limited, right? And so we would use, there are two things that we typically use.
Hmm.
Folks come into housing,
Hmm.
and I hope there is an appreciation for what it is that we actually do. The fact is, there is nowhere else, anywhere in the city, where you can rent a unit
Hmm.
for $365 on average, regardless of size, right? Nowhere else. And that represents typically about 30% of someone's income. So the folks who are very low or extremely low income, that's their only means to having good quality housing in our city.
Hmm.
That subsidy is scarce. And we haven't seen the kind of movement in household incomes, frankly, that allows people to move up and out.
Out.
And
Yeah.
that's critically important to understand. So you have people essentially who have lived in housing for decades and decades. You
Mm-hmm.
have people who have lived in housing for 70 years, right? For 70 years. This was supposed to be a program that allowed
That's
people
yes.
yes, that allowed people to come in, you
Yeah.
get on your feet, and you achieve the American dream. You
Mm-hmm.
save some money, you have a down payment, you move up and out, giving another opportunity for someone to come in. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't quite panned out that way because we haven't seen people moving up. And what one of the things that we focus on, frankly, at PHA is to put our families on the path to social and economic mobility. That's why we've invested so much in our families, so that their incomes can increase, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can charge more rent, so that they can move up ultimately and out of housing into their own situation, private housing situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That has been a challenge, and it's not we are not alone in that regard. So
Yeah.
the work that you see us doing when we are required to do a whole scale redevelopment, we cannot have families in those units.
Right.
There are conditions there that makes it unsafe, and so we find, because there's a lot of planning that goes into this, but we find units within our portfolio to temporarily relocate them. We provide them with, in some cases, a voucher, again, so that they can move. while we do the redevelopment. So, in the case of the most recent relocation at Bartram,
Mm-hmm.
it's another entire the redevelopment of the site, demolition and redevelopment of the site in what was 1930s, 1940s Baroque style housing. We're going to redevelop it. And so we have relocated all of the families that live there, either through the voucher program
Mm-hmm.
or through units that are available within our portfolio. But that has been a challenge because our inventory over the last 2 decades have shrunk in some significant ways. We used to have about 21,000 units. We are now down to approximately 13,000. So we have developed.
Okay, okay, all right. So hold on one second. If you were just joining us, we are in a conversation with Kelvin Jeremiah, who is the CEO of the Philadelphia Housing Authority. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook on A Lawful Truth, and on YouTube. Most of my people are on YouTube now watching us having this
Mhm,
conversation, and it's A.Lawful Truth Enterprises. So come on over here. You'll see me in an orange dress with a purple jacket. So Mr. Jeremiah and I are having a discussion about the housing stock. You know why it has disintegrated in many ways. They weren't getting enough money funding to update the units, and now they're in a crisis of old units. And he's now working through with billions of dollars to redevelop and actually build new housing. He just spoke of having 21,000 units, and they're now down to 13,000, which then leads Mr. Jeremiah to this question. Folks are waiting and waiting and waiting. They're on the list. This is why. This is why.
absolutely. Well, think about it, Andrea, right? The number of units remains constant,
Right?
right? You moved in,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't moved out,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't increased the number. Where are the 100,000 people that are on the waiting list going to
Going to
go?
go.
Right? It's a very practical issue.
Yes.
In order to provide an opportunity for the next person on the list, we either have to increase the inventory on one hand, or people have to leave.
Yeah.
And let me be very candid about what happens here. If somebody is in housing for 30 years or 40 years, it means that that unit is occupied for
Yes.
30 or 40 years. There is no opportunity in that 30 or 40 years for somebody else to come in and occupy that unit
Right.
because they're there. And they're there because their incomes haven't changed,
Right.
right? And so, in truth, the way that units become available is when we have to, ultimately evict someone. And to get evicted in the public housing context is, incredible because you would have exhausted every opportunity that afforded you. Or when someone dies, right? Those are the reality
Mm-hmm.
of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at a finite number of units, and we're saying to folks, listen, we cannot continue to leave the way that we're leaving. The quality of the housing is deteriorating. We've already lost over 7,000 or 10,000, whatever that number is. We need to build back. And so, at the same time that we're thinking critically about the condition of our housing, we understand that we need to engage in preservation. So, the strategy that I put forward earlier in the week is a three-pronged strategy, really. One is to preserve the existing housing stock. We cannot lose any more units. So we're required now to invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason that we've lost units was because those units became obsolete, they became antiquated,
Right.
and they became uninhabitable.
Habitable.
And
Yes.
so those units are gone. And so, for our perspective, investing in the current housing stock that we have is incredibly important as a preservation strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not walking away from the existing units that we have. We are trying to preserve it, and that requires real meaningful investment in it. Secondly, We understand that because of the growing demand, the unmet demand, we have to increase the number of units that we have. And so that's where the 7,000 units comes from that
Right.
we fully intend to execute and have been executing upon, because we understand that that investment, the demand, the unmet demand, is really a supply issue for us. And so, a couple strategies there would be one for us to acquire units in the private market, and you see that we've been doing exactly that over the course of the last number of months. And then the third part of that is building new, redeveloping sites, increasing densities.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, there's a large inventory of publicly owned properties that I fully intend to work with Mayor Parker and the administration on PHA acquiring so that we can build. We are engaged in community economic development in a real way. And so when folks are looking at the plan, what I'm asking folks to do is think critically about, for example, our acquisition strategy. This is a very straightforward strategy. We're looking at a glut in the market right now in terms of already built units. All right. We're able to acquire one unit for, on average, $225,000. That very same unit, if we were to build it, right, would cost $550,000. So essentially, for every one unit we build, we could acquire two and a half. It makes sense. And at the same time, just think about the regulatory processes that we have to go through from soup to nuts. From the
Right.
time I have an idea in my head about building a new development
Mm-hmm.
to getting permits, right, and going through the capital, building a capital stack to get it funded and all of that, that takes 18 months. And that is providing that everything works in tandem. If there is any mishap, that could, you're looking at months. And then from that period to shovel in the ground, shovel in the ground to ultimately having the first person move in, that could be another 15 months. So for every project, it could take 3 years.
Wow.
And my argument has been, and continues to be, families who are waiting 10 years cannot wait any longer. So the strategy is to acquire, and to acquire really high quality units with a lot of amenities in communities, frankly, that has been communities that have been inaccessible to the population that we serve. And so that strategy comes to, when it's a very comprehensive strategy that comes out to somewhere around 6.3 or so, 6.8 or so billion dollars, because it is that comprehensive. And we're already well on our way. I think we're up somewhere 8,000 units already. We've already acquired nearly 1,200 units. There are several more in the pipeline that I will be announcing in the coming weeks and months ahead. But the strategy is one that it requires a level of urgency.
Okay. So I'm gonna read some of the comments here. Alexandra says my grandparents lived in the Johnson homes while they saved to purchase their house back in the 40s, 46 to 48. Marguerite says the housing authority was supposed to be temporary, but if people are not able, like the uh hourly wage is still $7 and something cents an hour, right? Correct?
Hmm.
Right? So nothing's
Yep,
changed,
eight
but
ten.
all the years have passed. Right. $8.10.
Yes, the federal minimum wage.
Crazy as hell. So people can't get themselves together. Shaquille, I hope you can hear me better now. Um, Viola says, no, Alexandra says, Marguerite, I attended high school with a girl whose grandmother and mother resided in Johnson homes until they died. We attended a private Catholic school. Mother was a teacher for the Philadelphia School District. Right? So people are making money, but they're still not making enough to come out of
Right.
housing.
But Andrea, understand as well, right? That in the case of Philadelphia, where you have the poverty rates hovering around what 24, 25 percent of the population is living in deep poverty, right? At let's just do some math because folks often don't fully appreciate the fact that our families, the state of our families, requires us to do certain things.
Yes.
So, if you were, I think there was a study a number of years ago that quantified public welfare benefits to wages.
Hmm.
The truth is, in this country, um, work don't pay. And what I mean is, for the people who are at the lower socioeconomic ladder, on the lower part of the socioeconomic ladder, if you quantify the public welfare benefits that they receive in Philadelphia, I think it comes out to somewhere around $29,000, 30,000, right? Now, if you do the same thing and quantify the annual income based on a minimum wage determination, that comes up to $16,000,
What?
right? So work don't pay. And folks are thinking that our families are somehow lazy and they don't want to
Yes.
work. The truth is, how many of us in a practical way, given two jobs, right? One that pays you 16,000 and another that pays you 30,000. How many of you will take the one that pays you less?
Right. Right.
Right? So every single day our families are making economic decisions that are in their own interest. It is not
Right.
because they're lazy.
Right.
It is because they understand the value of the dollar. And yes, we can argue that there is, you're paying your own way is priceless. And I get the argument, but frankly, the conditions that we face is there is no living wage
Right.
that is paid to the families who might want to otherwise get up and out. The wages have been fairly stagnant, and so you have to have some opportunity for folks to move up and out. And what we see, for example, for our laborers, when I increased the laborers' wages, what we saw was a lot of them who were living in PHA, they were able to purchase a home, they moved up and out, right? And so the folks who find themselves in what I call the poverty trap, who do not find and take the opportunities to escape it, are there perpetually, right? So
Yes.
you have now, as the person whose message you just read, you have a grandmother who have lived in public housing, perhaps when it was first open. She has raised her children in that, and now her children is raising their children in that. They don't own it. They will
Yes.
never own it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's the perpetual trap.
So, Marguerite said something. Why can't occupants be given parameters in increasing their income, then set a deadline to vacate the property, much like unemployment? If you don't get a job by XYZ time, your check stops. So, but here's the thing, they're working, Marguerite. That's the issue. They're absolutely working. They're not able to get employment that allows them to increase their income. And even if they increase it, let's just say you're making $16,000 a year and you get a job that's making 30,000 and you can move out of PHA. What housing can you afford to pay for at $30,000 a year? I'll wait. I'll absolutely wait. Because housing is $1,700 for a one-bedroom apartment, $2,700 for a two-bedroom apartment, and people are living in their cars that can't get into PHA or any other
Right.
emergency housing. It's very difficult. And so, to your point, we have to look from a lens of trying to seeking to understand, because this is difficult. And but for the grace of God, for those of us who have not had to access housing, yes, there are some people that will take advantage. That's happening
That
everywhere,
exists everywhere.
everywhere, right? But for those who literally understand that if they get something that makes $10,000 more, it's still not enough for them to pay for the kind of housing that they need. So I understand it. They're choosing their well-being over being, out, and then, all right, I moved out of PHA. I'm making $30,000 a year. You do the math and see what they will
Well,
be able to pay for.
but here's the data, right? If the average educational attainment rates, say for literacy and numeracy, is at the third or fourth grade levels, right? Let's assume that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It would suggest that the you're probably unable to even complete a job application. It would mean that you're probably unable to do basic math, basic reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average household income when I came to Philadelphia for our housing authority was somewhere around $9,600.
Stop it.
The average household income. We have done a lot to move that by investing in the population. Because I said, as I mentioned before, Andrea, and you and I have talked about this, the state of our families requires us to do a whole lot more,
Yes.
right? In if we are to allow them an opportunity to escape the poverty trap. Poverty is big business. I don't want our families to be stuck in it, right? And so let me tell you that some of the things that we have done has now have driven up household incomes to somewhere around 23,000. It's still at the poverty level, at or
Mm-hmm.
below the poverty level, right? Imagine to the person you're speaking to, your income, you're not working, your income is at $23,000, right? Subtract the statutory taxes that you would normally have to subtract. What's your net income from that? That's what you use to pay your rent and to live and everything else. We cap we cap at PHA rents at 30% of your income. Nobody at PHA is paying more than 30%. This is supposed to be the technique that allows you to save a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to ultimately address the other needs that you might have to ultimately move up and out. But let me tell you that what almost $13,000 increase that has taken 10 years, right? I came in 2011. We're now in 2025. Household incomes have only increased $13,000 from 9,006 to 23 approximately. And so you're asking families to escape it. I think there are tools that could be used.
Mm-hmm.
And families, those families that want to escape it, that
Mm-hmm.
understand that this is a trap, because you do have families that some have never worked, some have never left the urban enclave, the super block that they live in, the Johnson homes, for example.
Mm-hmm.
This is a community now, right? They have lived there for two, three generations, but they remain eligible to this day. They remain eligible for housing. And then let's assume to to just work the rest of their comments out for a moment, let's assume that we put on some statutory cap like unemployment. You get unemployment because you were employed
Right. Right.
or you are employable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have skills, but something has happened. You become unemployed. Usually, you might have been laid off, company might have closed, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You're employable. You have actually skills that somebody will pay for.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you may have none. right? You may have none. And so you're asking someone to do what? We're going to put it, we're going to set a statutory limit, say, what would it be?
Right.
Would it be 12 months?
Right.
Would it be 5 years? 10
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
And then what happens when we get to that cliff and say your income, as in the case of the average income at PHA, that hasn't increased to allow you the opportunity to escape that?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
happens? What do? We throw them out on the streets, right? We create a homelessness situation. These are practical matters that, as we think about the social conditions that we have to operate within, that we grapple with every single day.
Do you I want you to grasp for a moment that these conversations are so important because people are getting it. I'm looking at the so Monica says, this is so sad. I understand it, but what can be done? How can we change this perpetual living? How can we help? I need you to go back and look when he said, poverty is big business. We need to do a whole conversation about that. This is designed to keep people, certain groups of people, locked in a situation that's untenable for them, and to make them feel like they have no other choice. And I know PHA, we have about 3 minutes because I got to get State Rep Darisha Parker on. Um, I want you to talk about some of the programming that you do at PHA that allows residents to get a leg up and to move out, to buy housing, to buy some of the housing stock wherever they can, because it's hard, right? It's really hard.
Yeah, so for those residents who really understand what I call the poverty trap, are seeking opportunities, and we are working with them to put them on a path to social and economic mobility. That means that they can, in fact, engage in any one of our programs, from adult basic education, where they can learn to read, they can learn to do math, that we can get their educational attainment rates to the 10th grade level, where research has shown that they can actually become employable. We have, various job training programs in areas on the market that where there are demands for the skills that the folks are being trained in. There's the opportunity to buy your own home once you get to that place where you can actually afford it. We put you through a training program to become a homeowner.
Yes.
There is a lot of learned behaviors that needs to be programmed in you. I didn't understand when my mom came to the United States many moons ago. She never accepted any of the social welfare benefits. Never did. And I didn't fully understand, because there were times when I finally came to the US, when I thought, Mom, you could really, get some benefits here to help pay the rent,
Mm-hmm.
or food stamps to get more food. And she never subscribed to it, because she believed that you should never depend on anyone to do for you the things that you can do for yourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we never accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kinds of conditions, I think, as you think about the the insecurity that comes with knowing that you may not have stuff to eat, with knowing that you may not have a place to lay your head, and risking it all, right? Every single day
Day.
in this city, our families are doing exactly that. But
Mm-hmm.
I say there's another way. For those families who want to get up and out, use the opportunities for your children. I understand the grandmom might not be able to move right now because she has lived there for 40 years, but you have an opportunity for your grandchildren and for your children. Insist that they get the best quality education that they can possibly get. Insist that they get some vocational training. It may not be college,
Right.
right? We still
Mm-hmm.
need plumbers, electricians, we need
Carpenters.
gardeners, carpenters, we need
Mm-hmm.
all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So insist that they acquire a skill. How do we prepare the next generation How do we give them the tools and resources so that they can succeed in an ever changing world?
Mhm.
We are failing our children every single day, and it has to stop. And it
Mhm.
has to stop because we need to invest in them.
Mhm.
Our educational system that is supposed to promote that escape that we say is the key, it
Mhm.
was the key for me. I would be in poverty and living in poverty
Mhm.
had it not been for an old lady that said, "No, I want my children and grandchildren to learn to read. I
Yes.
want them to go to school. If I
Mhm.
need to suck salt," old saying,
Oh my God, I say the same thing. Suck salt through a wooden spoon.
you know,
Yes.
if I need to
Yes.
suck salt so that they can,
Yes.
eat chicken later, I'll suck salt today. And
Mhm.
we are prioritizing those things.
Mhm.
The state of play is such that if you're trapped there, you will be always trapped there.
Mhm.
If you don't have some parameters around how you're going to live and what that escape plan is, because I see family doing it every day now. I see families doing it.
Yes.
It is not permanent. It is escapable, and we
Mhm.
have to provide them with the resources. So while we provide the housing, while we provide the welfare support, let's give them those other opportunities. Let's make education, for example, free in real ways,
And let the minimum wage start at fifteen
and let the
dollars an hour,
minimum
as
wage
Dennis said.
be
Yes.
be one that allows you to afford the American dream.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not at $8. It's not
Absolutely.
even at $15.
Mhm, mhm. So, to your point, it all comes, it works in tandem. The school system has to pump out the kinds of folks that are able to, graduate.
Absolutely.
There are folks graduating. I met people who graduated from the school district of Philadelphia that could barely read or write, right? So we have to work in tandem with these folks. And a couple of weeks ago, I drove to see my youngest son, um, who was just perturbed that so many black men in particular are being pushed into sports and not to college. And he was asked, he and his brother were asked, well, how is it that you guys went and stayed for? He said, have you met my mama? Because to
Yeah.
your point,
Hey.
I kept saying to them, education is the key to get you to where you need to be. At 29 and 32, both of them are in the high six figures, living on their
Mhm.
own, right? Because I gave them no option, none
No,
whatsoever. And
uh,
oftentimes we forget that
that's
part.
me.
Yep, yep,
That's me, Andre. I'm 6'5". I don't
yep,
know how to play basketball. I
yep.
don't know how to play football.
Yep, yep, yep,
But I got
yep.
a phenomenal education though.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, our children are intrinsically pushed into places. Oh, you'll be a good football player. Oh, you'll be a good. I remember one coach calling me, going, "Your son is an amazing runner. He's fast." I said, "Not. Grades come first." So he never joined the track
Absolutely.
team, right?
Hmm.
And so as fast as he is, I understood what doing the best for him on that end would mean for him on this end. No one's
Good.
calling me asking me for $1. I might have to call them to ask for $1, but they're not calling me, right? And so it's giving them the opportunity and the leg up. Even when, as I was raising them, there were times when I paid the rent going through a divorce and I had $2 left. I
Right.
never accessed the public house. I just continued to work myself, and it pushed me. Now, I'm not saying that
Hmm.
everybody can do this. I'm not saying that everybody had the opportunity. When I came here, I am educated, right? So I
Right.
understood what the opportunities were. And I made sacrifices, to your point, Mr. Jeremiah, to make sure that I was home with them when everybody else was out partying, because I want to make sure they
Yep.
were doing all the right things. So as a direct result, they don't have police records. Right? They'd never been
Hmm.
suspended or had a detention. I was in their living world. Like,
Right.
not give
Right.
you buck. I want to get you to become an adult that is self sustaining and do what needs to be done. So now their friends are asking them, well, how did you get here? All of us have to make sacrifices. All of us.
Hmm.
So grandmom had to be involved, granddad had to be involved, the uncles, the aunts, the community, put them in programs.
Absolutely.
It is, and let me be clear. What I'm saying to you is by no stretch of the imagination an easy thing to do. To raise two black boys in this community without them getting in any trouble, have no contact with the police where they have records, unheard of. But we have to,
Absolutely.
what you believe is what you manifest,
Hmm.
right?
No, 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 no doubt. No doubt. and I'm sure that they're looking at you as the example. And I'm sure you have set that example. And I think sometimes, we need to give people just a little bit of grace,
Yes.
right? And in let's do this. Let's invest in the same way as we're investing in the social welfare system.
Hmm.
Let's invest in the same to the same degree in helping them find that path to economic prosperity,
Absolutely.
right? The old notion
Absolutely.
of teaching a man to fish or giving him a fish.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
requires work, it requires sacrifice,
Yep.
it requires determination and perseverance,
It requires disappointments.
it
It requires,
requires
yes.
disappointment,
Yes.
right?
Right? Yeah. It's 7:30. I got to get the Bishop Parker on, but I'm so grateful. I want us to continue to have these open-ended conversations around what is needed for us to get to a better place. How can we help each other instead of pointing fingers? How can we adopt a family and say,
Yep.
what can I do to help you? What does that look like for you? Is it taking them to the market? Is helping them to elevate their skills so that they
Hmm.
can get better housing? Is it helping them to get their children in better schools so that their children don't have to have the same fate that they do or did? I have a friend who we've been friends since 1990s. She lives in housing, has lived in housing for the majority of her life. She said she graduated from school and could not read a book. So she
Yep.
had to find the kind of skills. And she's a beautiful sister that I love dearly. And every time, so she's always trying to find these different things that she can do to earn money to bring into her
Hmm.
house. No judgment, because her situation is vastly different.
Right.
She was
Right.
put into a situation where she has to do this now to make sure she's working at bars in the weekend to make sure she can make a little bit of money. She's making wedding things so she can make a little bit of money. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So she has to
Absolutely.
hustle.
Yeah.
She has to hustle. The hustle, the muscle, the hustle. Lord, thank you so much. This is so awesome.
Always
So
a
good to talk
pleasure.
to you. Yes,
Always,
sir.
always a
Yes,
pleasure.
sir. I look forward to what we're talking about. Alexandra says, thank you, Mr. Jeremiah, for your time and all that you are doing. Just wanted to
Oh,
let you know.
thank you, Alexandra. I appreciate you.
You're so welcome. We will talk in a couple of weeks. This program is proudly sponsored in partnership with PHA, Philadelphia Housing Authority. You've just heard Mr. Kelvin Jeremiah, the CEO. We're having real conversations. This is not about us getting on here and just rotely talking about things, about PHA. We're really digging into the real issues that are happening in housing, not just in Philadelphia, but across the country. And so we're delving into what can we do to get better housing choice for people, to make sure that the houses that are in a dilapidated condition, that there's funding to fix those houses. Where do we put those people? And when folks get to PHA, that they don't stay there for generations. Thank you, Mr. Jeremiah. Always a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Andrea. Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was good. That was that was really good. I'm gonna let State Rep Larissa Parker in. I know I'm running a little bit late, but it's my show. My show. So I get to do what I want to do. Let's see if I see her. Hopefully, come on, Dorisha, come on. There she is. Good morning, my sister. Don't you love the real conversations we be having over here in these Wacondan streets?
No, I mean for me, and good morning to everybody.
Yeah.
Honestly, just really, I was one of those optimistic individuals as it relates to when I saw the articles as it relates to PHA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking on the other side of the emails, the phone calls that
Yeah.
we get regarding the current properties that they own and the upkeep and you know the upkeep and the maintenance and how a lot of their tenants are complaining. So that's pretty much why I said I am kind of optimistic because I'm seeing the conditions of the properties that they currently own.
Yeah.
So if you're about to engage in them acquiring because of their track record, I'm looking at the current conditions. And that's why I have been feeling skeptical, versus them being the developers. Some
Right.
developers are good, some
Yes.
developers are bad.
Yes.
So, I'm still going to be that way
Yes.
because ultimately, when a constituent calls you with a need or whatever it is, it won't matter who, a developer,
Mm-hmm.
PHA, whoever. I'm still going to fight for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, you always now with a time like this, I'm looking at things being half empty because they truly are.
Yeah.
Because of what the conditions are, it's probably why I'll be wearing fatigue a lot more because I'm at war. Because again, the criminal in chief and his best friend. So when you're talking about, PHA, and we're talking about federal, where some of the funding, would normally come from.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not in housing. That is not my lane. I am all about quality of life. So I'm very clear
Mm-hmm.
of where people try to put individuals who are elected. They want you to be the expert in every field, and I'm not. I stay in my lane of quality of life
Mm-hmm.
and want to make sure that I am an advocate. So it's not about me writing a nasty op-ed to him or anything like that. I just say I'm going to sit quietly, and I know the meetings will come, and it'll give me my chance to ask the pertinent information um, for what you're saying.
Yeah.
And since you see me moving a little slow, I literally came back from Lancaster. I had a agricultural rural affairs committee meeting and tour. And as my grandfather uses a famous line, I was the only shoe in the room. And I say I was the only shoe. And when I'm the only shoe in this Republican town, I told everybody, I told my mother, I told my brother, I told my staff, I told everybody, because hey, it's real out there in these Wakanda streets. And we didn't have internet. And when we were meeting in certain rooms, and then you come back home and you just appreciate how this area is not that close, but they are still using horse and buggies.
Yeah.
They're still doing certain things in life that sometimes we take for granted.
Granted.
So, I'll be, sharing shortly about some things that they talked about, and from Philadelphia, some things we got to work out, some things that are, behind. So we'll do what we got to do. We do what we got to do. What's shaking, sis?
Man, listen.
Okay.
At the state level, what's happening right now? What can we discuss
Okay.
about what's taking place? Has the budget been passed?
No, 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 girl, no, 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 no. So
The budget
honestly,
doesn't get passed until June anyway. But are you?
no,
But
it's no.
let me ask you this:
Okay.
Are you all working towards getting a feasible budget passed? That's the question I should have asked you.
We're in the stages. It's not. Nothing has been teed up that it's been sent to the House or sent to the Senate. No, we're still doing a lot of meetings, still doing a lot of negotiating, still doing a lot of talk. So it's nothing teed up in the
Right.
queue that we're going to meet a June deadline as
Okay.
of now. And right now it's April, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I never give you the definitive answer. The only thing I can share with you that we always make sure, because you and I always talk this time of year, and I let everybody know, if you are a state employee, we have put into law that you will not miss a paycheck, because we have not passed a budget. So
Okay.
our way of, like, good Lord, I did look beat up and tired. Make sure I take care of this later on. These girls working hard, making sure that our staff will not miss a paycheck
Okay.
due to we put that in place
Okay.
many, many, many moons ago. The only difference when you're talking about city council, yes, it is. They will have to, and they will meet their deadline for their budget. They're so I encourage individuals, and the process is different, and people get upset, and I try to share with them. Public testimony is different. You only have 17 members of city council. So this is your time to go and discuss certain things you want. The only difference with um, our process is I don't have public testimony. But if you want to have a meeting, or you want to have a town hall, or whatever it is, that there's certain things that you want to see, or you want to see certain things improve, go ye forth. We would partner with you and, do that. I am working on a couple of things that we have in a hopper for some just some conversations in a town hall type of setting, and then let's see what the solutions are going to be for those types of outcomes. So I'm working on some several things now.
Okay.
I think because a lot of times what I'm seeing, and I know I have to read. I think Solomon Jones wrote an article about he's not rallying or he's not marching, so I got to read that. recently, just to see what the context of individuals who are not participating, people of color who are not participating in rallies and certain marches. I'm very transparent. There's two rallies that or outcomes that I go to and show solidarity. I always want to go to the union rallies and stand on the picket lines for some of our workers that are there. And also, I know twice a week on Mondays at noon there's something at Senator McCormick's office in Philadelphia, and I sent you those times. And also, there's something on Fridays at Senator Fetterman's.
Miss Office, yes.
Yeah, so those are the ones that are on my timeline to make sure that I just go in to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I was helping a constituent, and they have responded back. The process is a little bit different, and you just got to get used to certain things. And again, I mean, I can be the bearer of bad news, but I give it truth, and I don't want to look at it as bad news. We are in, mother saying it's always going to be tight. Well, I'm not going to say our relationship is tight because we already are tight. I'm saying my wish list of what I normally want, certain organizations, certain projects. My wish list is tight. It's very tight. So what I normally would be asking for, I'm not. I'm being realistic, trying to see where I can push certain individuals into grants, um, and push them in that direction until the economy, until the landscape gets a little bit better. And one thing I try my best, and I don't do this. I'm a solution person. I don't blame the city. I don't blame anybody. I just say collectively, as all individuals who are seeking or are currently in political office, we're in a landscape. We're in a different landscape. So I am new in my role. So this landscape, you're right, is uncharted waters because of what's happening
Right.
on the federal side that really determines all of our landscapes, i.e. from the state, i.e. from the city. What do you mean from the state? Well, there's funding that comes from the federal government to the state, and that it is also then shifted to the city. I know our governor has sued one, two, I think three times as of right now, and we are still waiting to see what is going to be unfrozen when released. We know education is on the block, and guess what? We will go back to what I say, and people don't want to hear it. The conditions are telling the stories, and the conditions aren't great. But as a people of color, um, voting has consequences. Not voting has consequences. So when you were angry, and that'll come. I don't want to really share it, but really and truly, when we really looked at the landscape, okay, you can check so many boxes for a woman that ran. Okay, she didn't win, everybody. And as a result of you saying you wanted something different because you were that bitter, whether it was me or whether it was our party or whatever, and you decided to go with the convicted felon who still has their rap sheet, him and his best friend are doing things that are egregious to you and things to come. It is what it is.
So the emergency is here.
Yes,
It's not coming. It is here.
yes,
So many things have been the government has been ripped apart at the seams from the inside out. I
yes,
still don't think many people recognize just what that means for the average daily person. But yesterday, while working on a project, I listened to for an hour to a conversation that was being had by a well-known journalist, and he said, as a white man, he is absolutely afraid of what is upon us. That the government has gotten to a place where they know if they put people in internment camps here, that they have to go through a process. So now they've figured out to put them on planes. And he said people are literally disappearing in this country as we speak. It's not immigrants, it's people who are born and raised here, people who disagreed with the government. All of that is going on. And so, with the emergency being here, you can only do at a state level or at a local level what you can for the citizens of this city and
yes.
state.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I have now is how can we, as people who live here, how can we support and help you to help ourselves?
Sure.
because people are being deputized to come into our communities and rip us out of our homes. The shelves are getting empty. Nobody's really talking about that, but folks are walking into markets and the shelves are already looking sparse, and we are not at June, right? And so while I want folks to continue to live their best lives the best way they know how in the midst of this drama, I need folks to prepare, right? To get themselves ready. Medication, you know, go see your doctor if you can. Make sure your car is in good working order because the parts are going to become untenable. Like all those things. And now voting is going to become more difficult because they're passing laws to make it so. Look, quite frankly, right now with everything that's going on, people, as angry as I want to get with folk, people chose what they thought was best for them, and so now we all have to pay for that.
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So what do we do to get ourselves to a place where we can continue to do the work? Because I listen, I can't focus on what isn't working or what is. I need to focus on what is going on right now. Lots of people are going to die. And I think that is something, this is going to feel like COVID all over again. And I don't think people recognize that yet because we're still and deliberately still in a space of, it can't, this not really happening, is it? These are the United States of America, right? We have three branches of government, right? What does that mean to us? People still
Mm-hmm.
can't wrap their minds around that.
Sure. And listen, I hear everything you're saying, and a lot of times, for me, I literally will tell you this. I'm going back to and literally have not. Thank God for my husband being in the military because a lot of things that I used to laugh and joke about,
Yes.
I appreciate that because one of the things that he did was he bought walkie talkies.
Yeah.
For him and I, he has make sure he has a pantry of things that I don't even like, but
But it's going to be necessary to eat.
if it's going to be necessary to
Yeah.
eat, then it's
Mm-hmm.
necessary to eat. So I just think that that is really what you have to do. You know, and I think a lot of times people don't want to real think about Big Mama and Big Daddy back in the day and what they used to tell us to do with
Mm-hmm.
all of those herbs, all of those vegetables, all of those freezing things, and always
Mm-hmm.
being prepared. That's really where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I don't do doom and gloom. I do reality and
Yes.
things that I can work with and things that I can fix. A lot of times people are looking at this springtime. You got to clean your house, get your house in order. A lot of times you're hearing me now like a little raspy,
Mm-hmm.
but guess what? I can also say I've been a bad girl. I had what was it? Maybe like a real thick milkshake. So I'm paying for it because of the dairy. And
Yeah.
I don't do dairy. I do almond milk or
Right.
oat milk. So I
Right.
try to you know know your body when it's talking to you because it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
have effects. But also I tell everybody, listen, because who we have who are running the government right now, it can put you in so much of a disarray that you don't want to leave your house. Full transparently, when it happened, November 5th, I grabbed the stiffest drink. I poured me a cup on November 6th. I went up to bed, and that was all she wrote. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when my husband was like, okay, this is serious. My wife never goes to bed at 7:30 at night. Like something is serious. And she grabbed a drink, so it's serious. But I tell people what I've also been doing is really focusing more on me, my mental health, my mental well being, and I put the phones down. The phones do not recharge, restore in my bedroom. I
Mm-hmm.
keep all of those gadgets away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I wake up, I just picked up my phone this morning because I needed to be with you and I had to make sure I didn't oversleep.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I'm looking at is like one of the things that I write in my book, my little journal here. It just says, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire," and that's
Mm-hmm.
really where I am. I'm doing things as I go along because I know this movement will not be televised. But as
Baby.
you're doing that, I'm trying to get as much as support as possible and building a coalition of women
Mm-hmm.
that look like me,
Mm-hmm.
and re-educating them about a process. Guess what? That means certain legislations, the bills that have not passed, I've reintroduced them, and I
Mm-hmm.
will give you, and people can go to my website to see which bills I've reintroduced. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I've reintroduced, it's Flow Friday, my menstrual bills. It's 1001 and 1002. Same premise from what we're providing as it relates to
Mm-hmm.
and guess what's on the chopping block? We're talking about SNAP and WIC, but this is how my bill is definitely, and I'm not going to change that because ultimately I know these bills still have to get to the federal government. So when
Mm-hmm.
I do my job, my day job, which consists of getting things out of the House onto the
Mm-hmm.
Senate, back into the House, onto the governor's desk, then guess what? I will then, as I'm doing all this work, I'm still reaching out to our senators
Mm-hmm.
who are familiar with this. Our new senator has to meet me, so I can talk to them, and I'll bring Lynette with me, and we talk to them about menstrual health, really menstrual health awareness. I think we just gotta re-educate individual as it relates to disparities, as it relates to no shade, no jab. Everyone is not a mother. Everyone's not trying to be a mother, but everyone that we look like has and will have some point in life
A
a menstrual
period.
cycle that
Mm-hmm.
comes out of their mouth. So
Mm-hmm.
mouth, not mouth, woo, body. Good Lord. Yeah, I know. I don't know where that came from, mother. I'm sorry. I was on the roll. I was like, oh, okay, that was a little groove. Sorry, sorry,
That's
but
all right.
y'all know.
Don't worry. I call Good Friday Black Friday, so you know I'm tired too.
Okay, I
So
just
good.
need you to know when it comes, and also,
Mm-hmm.
as we're talking about that, everyone knows, regardless of a boycott, Representative Parker will always still highlight African American owned businesses in my district and not.
Mm-hmm.
I found a beautiful coffee shop called Welcome Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, Freedom Coffee. It's
Mm-hmm.
right on Old York Road. Oh my God, I had so a fabulous time with the husband and wife there. And I'm gonna probably do something like that today. They
Mm-hmm.
have this amazing chai tea that is just amazing with the
Freedom Coffee, you
herbs.
said?
It's called Freedom Coffee. Yes,
Is
black
that the
owned.
one with the stuffed something? The stuffed pastry? Is that the one that you went to that had some kind of stuffed pastry?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It was delicious. It was
Okay.
delicious. I have moved more away from coffees. I'm more into
Yeah,
teas.
I don't drink coffee at all, so yeah, I'd be like, take it.
I loved it, and I just love and
Mm-hmm.
they're also going to be open. They're open to doing events. They're open for the people and the public, and they love it. And I call that a diamond in the rough
Mm-hmm.
because around them it's some areas that you could tell there's going to be some things that's going to be built or they're doing something in that area. But in the meantime, I love the fact that I can go into a coffee shop. I can have a meeting in my district. I can have a great conversation. We
Where
can
is
get
it
some
located on Old York Road?
you want me to pull it up real quick?
Yeah, and then I
Because I
have to
know
go
everybody
because
wants the address.
Laverne. So typical Jamaican over here. All I have is boxes and boxes and boxes of tea. Um, because listen, if I
I
start
love that.
drinking coffee, y'all are gonna be concerned. I don't need a coffee
No,
in my life. I leave it alone. And I have Jamaican coffee here too, Blue Mountain Coffee.
is it
Um,
blue?
I do have $45 an ounce, but I usually, share it with my guests when they come to the house.
Sure.
But
I got it for you, my sister.
okay.
It's 4906 Old York Road,
Is that in Philly?
Philadelphia, and plenty of parking.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
ample parking. I pulled right in, no problem.
Okay. 4906 Old York Road. All
Hmm.
right. Let me just make sure I do this because Denise is probably listening. Going, we going to this place today? 4906 Old York Road. Okay.
And I
Freedom
think they're
Coffee.
open from 6 a.m. to like 3 p.m.
Really? Okay.
Hmm.
6 to 3. All right. All right, my sister. I was up until,
I heard you.
ooh, so I need to get off this air because I still have a meeting at 9 o'clock, and I have to keep moving for the day. But
Me
thank you
too.
so much.
I'm
Thank you
just
so much.
glad because the last time me and you were on, we was doing a funeral. You was running, and I'm running to a funeral. But not today. We're just
Regular meetings. Yep.
it's Freedom FREEDOM Coffee.
Freedom Coffee.
Freedom Coffee.
Yeah. Yes, Laverne. Mary was off the chain, but now I'm paying for it. I'm not a young pup anymore, so I
Listen, we're
gotta.
not. Have a fantastic weekend.
You
Everybody
too.
be
All
great on
right.
purpose.
All
And
right.
as I said to you earlier, as we talked, I know it's hard for many people. You're going to have to put your phones down. You're going to have to find how you can, because I did post a couple of the movies that I seen recently. The latest one with the Viola Davis, they gave me my strength. When you see that bad woman with her beautiful skin, being bad as she was in that role of presidency, and she just really did a good. It was a
Yeah.
good movie.
Yeah.
It was a good movie, and
Honey,
just
I'm only watching comedies and romantic novels now. Real life is too much, is enough for me. So,
oh, no, no, can you get yourself? Can you just go on my Facebook page and see the two movies I gave a shout out to? I know it's gonna mess with your head.
yeah, now listen, listen.
It's so real.
Yes,
I always gotta give shout out, and I always gotta plug up our
yes,
black
yeah,
male actors and
yeah,
whatever because
yeah,
she was definitely a superhero
yes,
and
yeah.
dresses and sneakers and bumps. Like I just love her. I just love her. I love what she did. I love the reconnection of the two people from Blackish characters are on there. So I
Mm-hmm.
just said it was a beautiful thing.
Uh-huh.
She's always been on my bucket list, but I know she's one woman, and I said I
Yeah.
wanted to meet for her phase
Oh,
of life.
I met her and had a good conversation with her. It was so wonderful. So wonderful. These sisters are real. All right, my sister, I gotta go. See you soon. All right.
I love you. See you
Love you too,
soon.
honey. Love you. This
All right,
episode.
y'all.
All right, bye bye. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye, darlings. Bye. Let me knock everybody down because I've got all these different things going on. Hey, bye bye.